Look, I need to be completely honest with you right now because what we're witnessing in Cleveland is beyond frustrating. The Browns organization is making a decision that could define their entire season, and frankly, it might be one of the most baffling quarterback controversies we've seen in recent memory. Let me ask you something. When does patience become stubbornness? When does giving someone a fair shot turn into deliberately ignoring what's right in front of your face? Because that's exactly what's happening with the Cleveland Browns right now, and I'm gonna break down why this situation is absolutely mind-boggling. Dillon Gabriel is getting another start, another opportunity to prove himself against the New York Jets. And look, I get it. The Browns invested in him, they believe in what they saw, they want to give him every chance to succeed. But here's the problem. Gabriel is sitting at a 1-3 record as a starter. 1 win, 3 losses. And those aren't even competitive losses we're talking about in most cases. Since Gabriel took over in Week 5 against the Minnesota Vikings, we've seen the exact same pattern repeat itself over and over again. He had a few flashes in that Vikings game. Sure, a couple throws that made you think maybe, just maybe, there was something there to work with. But then what happened? Nothing? Absolutely nothing. The Pittsburgh Steelers game came and went. The Miami Dolphins matchup was forgettable. The New England Patriots contest was more of the same. In 4 starts, this guy has thrown for more than 200 yards exactly one time. One time! Let me put that in perspective for you. In today's NFL, where passing offenses are supposed to be explosive and quarterbacks are putting up video game numbers left and right, Dillon Gabriel can't even consistently break 200 yards passing. That's not a high bar. That's essentially the baseline expectation for a starting quarterback in this league, and he's failing to meet it 3 out of every 4 games. The Browns are sitting at 2-6 right now, 2 wins, 6 losses. That's not just bad. That's catastrophic for a team that had playoff aspirations coming into this season. And with Gabriel under center, do you really see this getting better? Maybe they steal a game here and there. They did beat the Green Bay Packers. They managed to get past the Miami Dolphins, but those feel more like anomalies than indicators of what this team actually is with Gabriel running the offense. Here's where this whole situation becomes absolutely infuriating. The fans in Cleveland, they're not stupid. They watch football. They understand what good quarterback play looks like. And right now, they're screaming for a change. They're done with Dillon Gabriel. There's no excitement anymore. The hope has evaporated. Every time he drops back to pass, you can feel the collective anxiety from the fan base because they know what's coming. Another short completion, another check down, another drive that stalls out before it ever really gets going. And who are the fans calling for? Shedeur Sanders. Remember that name because this is where the story gets really interesting and frankly, really troubling. Sanders was projected as a first-round talent. First round. That means scouts, analysts, people who study this game for a living thought this kid had the tools to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. The Browns took a chance on him, and then what did they do? They buried him on the depth chart. But here's the thing that really gets me fired up about this whole mess. When Shedeur Sanders finally does get his opportunity, and trust me, it's coming because Gabriel simply cannot sustain this level of poor play indefinitely, Sanders isn't going to get the same patience. He's not going to get 4 starts to figure things out. He's not going to get the benefit of the doubt that Gabriel has somehow earned despite doing absolutely nothing to deserve it. Jonathan Peterlin said it perfectly on 92.3 The Fan, and I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially he pointed out that Gabriel can completely stink up the joint and he'll still get another opportunity. But Shedeur, if Sanders struggles even a little bit, if he has 1 bad quarter, 1 interception at the wrong time, 1 game where things don't click immediately, he's done. He won't get that same leash. And why? What has Gabriel done to earn this preferential treatment? Let me remind you about Shedeur Sanders' preseason performance because this is important context that a lot of people seem to have forgotten. Week 1 of the preseason against the Carolina Panthers, Sanders started that game, and what did he do? He looked spectacular. Not just good, not just competent, spectacular. He threw 2 touchdown passes and showed command of the offense that we haven't seen from Gabriel in any of his starts. And this was happening while both Kenny Pickett and Gabriel were dealing with injuries. Think about that timeline for a second. Sanders gets 1 preseason start, balls out, shows everyone exactly what he's capable of, and then gets shoved right back down the depth chart the moment the veterans are healthy. Meanwhile, Gabriel gets the starting job and proceeds to put up some of the most anemic offensive numbers we've seen from a Browns quarterback in years, and he's getting start after start after start. The hypocrisy is stunning. The double standard is right there in plain sight. And the most frustrating part is that Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff seem completely oblivious to it, or they just don't care. They've made their decision. They're sticking with Gabriel, and they're gonna ride this thing into the ground, apparently. Now, there's another wrinkle to this whole saga that we need to address. In week 8, Shedeur Sanders was inactive, not because he was in the doghouse, not because he did something wrong, but because of a back injury. Bailey Zapp had to serve as the backup in that game, so now we're waiting to see what happens this week. Is Sanders healthy? Can he even be the backup against the Jets? Because if his back isn't right, then this whole conversation becomes moot for at least another week. But let's assume Sanders does get healthy. Let's assume he's ready to go. What then? Does anything change? Does Stefanski suddenly see the light and realize that maybe, just maybe, it's time to give the kid with first-round talent a legitimate shot? Or does Gabriel get start number 5, start number 6, start number 7, while the season completely slips away? Here's what really bothers me about this situation. It's not just about this season, it's about what this says about the organization's decision-making process. It's about the message they're sending to their players and their fan base. When you stick with a quarterback who is clearly not getting the job done, who is putting up historically bad numbers, who can't lead your offense to consistent production, you're essentially saying that merit doesn't matter, performance doesn't matter, results don't matter. What matters is that you're the chosen guy, and once you're the chosen guy, you get every opportunity in the world regardless of whether you earn it. Contrast that with what's going to happen to Sanders when his number finally gets called. He's going to walk into a situation where expectations are simultaneously too high and the leash is impossibly short. The fans are going to expect him to be the savior because they've watched Gabriel fail for weeks. The coaching staff is going to be hypercritical of every mistake because they've already invested so much in Gabriel that admitting Sanders should have been playing all along means admitting they were wrong, and the media is going to scrutinize every throw, every decision, every audible at the line of scrimmage. It's a no-win situation for Sanders, and it's entirely the Browns' own making. They created this mess by not giving him a fair shot from the beginning. They compounded it by giving Gabriel start after start despite clear evidence that he's not the answer. And now they're setting up a scenario where when Sanders inevitably does play, he'll be set up to fail. Let's talk about what a fair evaluation actually looks like, because I think that's getting lost in all of this. A fair evaluation means giving both quarterbacks the same opportunities under similar circumstances. It means judging them by the same standards. It means having the same patience level for both guys. But that's not what's happening here. Not even close. Gabriel has gotten 4 starts, 4 opportunities to show what he can do with the first team offense, with all the preparation time, with the game plan built around his strengths. And what has he produced? 1 game with over 200 passing yards, a 1-3 record, an offense that looks completely lifeless most of the time. But he's getting start number 5 against the Jets because apparently 4 starts isn't enough of a sample size to determine that this isn't working. Meanwhile, Sanders got 1 preseason start, 1, and he had to ball out in that single opportunity just to prove he belonged in the conversation. And even after he did exactly that, even after he showed more in that 1 preseason game than Gabriel has shown in 4 regular season starts, he's still sitting on the bench, still waiting for his chance, still watching someone else fail at a job that he's probably better equipped to do. The analytics back this up too. When you look at Gabriel's numbers, there's nothing there that suggests he's on the verge of figuring things out. His completion percentage is mediocre. His yards per attempt is below average. He's not taking shots down the field. He's not making plays outside the structure of the offense. He's essentially a game manager, except he's not even managing the game well enough to win consistently. And look, I don't want to completely bury Dillon Gabriel as a person or even as a player. Maybe he's a great guy. Maybe he works hard. Maybe in a different system or on a different team, he could be successful. But right now, with this Browns team, in this situation, it's clearly not working. And continuing to force it, continuing to give him opportunities while denying Sanders those same opportunities, that's not just bad coaching. It's organizational malpractice. The Browns are wasting a season. They're wasting the prime years of some talented players players on their roster. They're wasting the patience of a fan base that has already endured decades of losing and disappointment. And for what? To prove that their initial evaluation of Gabriel was correct. To avoid admitting they might have been wrong. That's not how successful organizations operate. Successful organizations adapt. They recognize when something isn't working and they make changes. They're not afraid to pivot when the evidence clearly shows they need to go in a different direction. The best teams in the NFL are the ones that are ruthlessly honest with themselves about their personnel and their performance. They don't cling to mistakes just because admitting those mistakes might be uncomfortable. What makes this even more frustrating is that we're not talking about a situation where Gabriel has been mediocre and Sanders is an unknown commodity. We've seen enough from Gabriel to know what he is. We've seen enough from Sanders in limited opportunities to know that he has real potential. This shouldn't be a difficult decision. This shouldn't require weeks and weeks of deliberation. The answer is staring the Browns right in the face. You want to know what's going to happen? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. Gabriel is going to start against the Jets. Maybe he has a decent game. Maybe he doesn't. But regardless of what happens in that one game, he's going to get another start after that. And another one after that. Until finally, when the season is completely lost, when there's no hope of salvaging anything from this year, that's when Sanders will get his chance. That's when they'll finally say, okay, let's see what the kid can do. And then when Sanders plays, if he's not perfect immediately, if he doesn't come in and instantly transform the offense and start winning games, they'll use that as justification for why Gabriel was the right choice all along. They'll point to Sanders' struggles and say, see, we knew what we were doing. We gave Gabriel every opportunity because he gave us the best chance to win. Never mind that Sanders won't have gotten the same opportunities. Never mind that he'll be playing in a pressure cooker situation that Gabriel never had to deal with. Never mind that the standards for Sanders will be completely different from the standards that were applied to Gabriel. That's the really insidious part of all this. It's not just that Sanders isn't getting a fair shot right now. It's that when he finally does get his opportunity, it won't be a fair evaluation either. The deck will be stacked against him from the start. And then when it doesn't work out perfectly, the Browns will use that as evidence that they were right all along to stick with Gabriel, even though they created the conditions that made it nearly impossible for Sanders to succeed. This is what I mean when I say that things are tense in Cleveland. It's not just about one quarterback decision. It's about what this decision represents. It's about the pattern of behavior from this organization. It's about the lack of accountability. It's about the unwillingness to make tough calls when tough calls are needed. The Browns have been bad for so long because they keep making these kinds of decisions. They stick with failing plans far too long. They don't recognize problems quickly enough. They don't adapt fast enough. And the saddest part, the fans see it. The fans know exactly what's happening. They're not blind. They're not stupid. They watch other teams around the league who aren't afraid to make quarterback changes when things aren't working. They see teams like the Steelers or the Ravens or any number of successful franchises that are ruthless about their evaluation process. And then they look at their own team, still trotting out Dillon Gabriel for start after start, despite overwhelming evidence that he's not the answer. And they wonder why their team can't figure out something that seems so obvious to everyone else. So here we are. The Browns are 2-6. Gabriel is 1-3 as a starter. Sanders is sitting on the bench recovering from a back injury, waiting for an opportunity that may never come on fair terms. And the season is slipping away week by week, loss by loss. The Jets game is coming up and you already know what's going to happen. Gabriel will start. Maybe he'll be slightly better than terrible. Maybe he'll be exactly as bad as he's been. Either way, he'll probably get another start after that, and the cycle will continue until there's literally no reason to keep doing it anymore. This is the Cleveland Browns in a nutshell. This is why they can't get out of their own way. This is why they've been one of the worst franchises in professional sports for decades. It's not about talent. It's not about resources. It's about decision making. It's about recognizing reality and responding to it appropriately. And right now, the Browns are failing that test spectacularly. Dillon Gabriel will keep getting opportunities. Shedeur Sanders will keep waiting, and the losses will keep piling up. That's the reality of the situation, and it's absolutely maddening to watch.